Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. Have you ever thought about writing a book? Or have you already got a draft at the back of a cupboard that you thought would never see the light of day? Today I speak to Jaqui Lane, owner of The Book Advisor. Jaqui and her team help business people develop and share their expertise, experiences and insights through self-publishing and marketing their own high-quality business book. She also helped me with my own book, The Money Sandwich, and has her own strong views on money education. Jaqui explains the process of how to write a book, and that it's not just writing a manuscript, but finding your audience and the importance of marketing that book as well as yourself. Well, welcome, Jaqui, to our show. It's lovely to have you here today.
Oh, that's an absolute pleasure, Mark. Looking forward to spending some time chatting with you.
Well, we've known each other for a fair while now, and one of it was that when I actually put out the book, you were very, very helpful in helping those who are self-published, who just don't know what they don't know, and you're the expert in all this. But this is and I also know you also write a lot of books. You help with a lot of research on a lot of books, and help authors write their own books. So this is an interesting field to get into. Where did this all start from?
Great question. I have a really useful master's degree in Russian politics.
Oh, okay.
And was planning to go into politics, but kind of took a bit of a diversion. Well, what was going to be a diversion, and ended up coming to Australia from New Zealand to research and write a book on the history of entrepreneurship in Australia for the Australian Stock Exchange. And in the process of doing that, and that was a 2-year project, and in the process of doing that, I obviously interviewed a lot of business people and entrepreneurs. And towards the end of that project, I was thinking, do I go back to New Zealand to go into politics, or what do I do? And I ended up staying and starting a publishing company, having no idea about how to publish. But I thought a lot of the people that I had interviewed had asked me to help them with their book, or write their book, or get their business books published. So I thought, there either is somebody out there doing it, but not doing it very well, or there's no one out there doing it, so I'll do it. And so that's how I got into business book publishing. And then GFC came along, and that was 24 years of doing that. And the GFC came along and, decided that was not a good business anymore. But I then morphed the way I worked in business book publishing, and self-publishing had really developed by then. So I stayed in the business book space and just morphed, into a different part of it.
It's at any dinner table, you'd if there's 10 people there, half the people would say, I've got a story, I would love to write a book. You hear this all the time. So it must be, there really is a need, but people just don't know where to start.
That's right. And I have some clients who have written a book and had it in a drawer for 5 years. Right. So, or got halfway through a book and got stuck. So it's interesting. A lot of the discussion is often around the book writing phase, which obviously is very critical. But as you would well know, you think that's the hardest bit until you get into, okay, now I've got to publish it and market it and let the world know that it exists. And in fact, I think that's often harder than the writing phase. So there's a continuum for your book journey, and most people really just focus on the book writing part.
Yes, and I think actually I'm going to, there's 2 parts to that, because I do really want to talk about the accountability and the planning of writing a book, and then also the aftermath, exactly as you said. But I'm just fascinated when you were just saying you've got a degree in Russian, what was it, Russian literature?
Russian politics.
Russian politics. That just, I have a thing. I would, one of my bucket lists is absolutely go to Russia. I know it's a little bit difficult in the present circumstances, but how did you actually get into that? That's just fascinating.
Well, as a young kid, I was always really interested in, politics. My parents were quite active locally, and I had a cousin who was my godmother, and she was New Zealand's first female diplomat. So I thought that was pretty cool. So I asked her about what I would need to do to have that as an option. And she said, you need a first-class honours degree in politics or languages. So from the age of 12, I decided that I wanted to get a first-class honours degree in politics, and became very excited. That's what I did, as you do. And I'm inherently interested in the exercise of power. So it's not far really from, if you get into politics, you end up looking at the exercise of power, whether it's politicians or business or the world. So whilst it seems quite disconnected, that is the kind of underlying theme of that. And so when I was at university doing my master's, I actually got sent to Russia by the Russian embassy to study there for 8 weeks as part of my master's thesis.
What a thrill. Oh, well, geez, that's a very unique situation. But being so focused from a 12-year-old, this is what I'm going to do. And so, yeah, must have felt like, okay, not the diplomat, but really going to Russia, to be invited to Russia, that would have been amazing. What was your memories of Russia?
So that was 1984.
Right.
So a radically different Russia than what it, and I just went to Moscow, so I didn't travel,
Yes.
and I was escorted because I was an official guest via the embassy, and at that point you really couldn't travel independently in Russia without really a minder, I guess is
Yes.
the best way to describe it. But I was extremely well looked after. And went to all the logical places, but then also got private tours of some of the places that you typically don't get to see, but was never on my own. Always had someone there, or someone taking me somewhere or guiding me. And when I came back from Russia, I think they might have thought that they might be able to convert me into a spy or something. I don't know. That might be my Walter Mitty moment. But I was certainly questioned by New Zealand, not police, but New Zealand officials about my trip to Russia.
I bet you were. Yeah. No, I was without the actual interrogation at the end, but was able to actually, I think it was 84, maybe it was 82 or 83, but went to China.
Uh-huh.
And exactly the same. It couldn't go around Beijing or anything like that without a minder at that point. They weren't really letting in Westerners at that stage. There were no real foreign hotels like, the Hiltons and things like that back then. So, but just a wonderful experience. So, yeah, no, just sort of that would have been some amazing memories for you. Okay, so we digress. Now, back to the book. For me, writing the book, what was very much needed, and you actually said it yourself, that someone may have something sitting in or half finished and it's taken them 5 years and it's just been sitting there. And it was a bit that way for me for a couple of years, and it wasn't really until, like anything else in life, actually had to sit down, have a plan, and the way most plans work is you put in set steps and have someone and keep you accountable. So that obviously is a big part of what you do for some budding authors.
Very much so, and everybody's different. Some people are some people need kind of weekly accountability. Other people can go away and do it themselves, and then they just pop up again. But a key thing for me really is to help my clients understand what their other commitments are, and to create a schedule and a commitment that's actually achievable.
Right.
Because a big part of that writing process is that people get disillusioned if they're not making the progress that they think they ought to be, and then often dump it because they think it's too hard. And the reality is that they just haven't been realistic at the outset as to the time and commitment that they'll need. And I guess in a way that's where I can come in, because I am a writer as well. I know how long it takes. So if someone says, "Oh, I'll do that over the next 2 weekends," I'll go, "I don't think that's realistic."
Yeah.
Or when I'm on holiday, I'll do it, and I'll go, I don't think so. So I can bring, I guess, that whole understanding of what it's like to write a book and research and write it, because I still do that. And kind of knowing what's coming up is a real benefit for a lot of people, because If it's your first book, you've got no idea.
Yeah. And I think for a lot of it, for me, especially when I wrote, the book was jargon and commerciability, in that, what was a passion of mine, and say, for example, with superannuation, is, yes, people are interested in it, but they're not going to be passionate like I am. So there is this point where you're trying to make something interesting for the reader, but you've also, you just don't want to just keep going infinitum about a subject that's not going to be of commercial value too.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point, Mark, and something I say to people that I'm working with is it's really important to take a step back. So, you've got your passion to write this book, and you want to share all your knowledge, and you're going to get it out there. And I go, well, great, that's great, Mark. Now, can you just step back and think about who you're writing it for?
Mm.
And what are their challenges? And of all the knowledge you have, because you can't put it all in one book, if you understand what their challenges are, that will then help you work out what you keep in the book and what you don't put in the book. So that balance of what you want to say, and then who your audience is and what they are looking for and what they need to know, is a really important exercise to do super early.
Yeah, I think you put it to me. Your avatar. Now, who is that person put in your mind? Mr. and Mrs. Smith. What age? Where do they live? What's their situation? What are their worries? What are their concerns? How are you going to help them? Really made a significant difference when it was, I'm just going to write about money. You can't. That's just way too broad. But so if someone really is, they've got an itch, they really, this is on their bucket list to do, and they've just got, and so many people do have so many good stories. Even actually from writing the book, and someone says, oh, Mark's written a book. It's, I've always written a book. And I also say, well, what would you write about? It is some fascinating stories out there. So is it people just don't know what to do, or they're just, life gets busy? What's the main reason you find?
I think a combination of two things. They don't know how to start,
right?
And also they don't make it a priority.
Yeah.
So if you don't know where to start, you kind of just start writing, which is the worst place to start, right? Because if you don't have a clear structure and a clear view about who you're writing, it depends on whether you're writing. I focus on business books. I'm not into the novels, so my comments are in relation to non-fiction. It's really important to have a real clarity around why you're doing it. What your knowledge is. Put it down in dot points, and then, as I said earlier, think about who your audience is, and then create your structure for your book before you start writing. Right. Because you're going to have ups and downs in the writing, and to avoid you second guessing yourself and getting stuck, if you've got a clear structure or content outline, you can then focus on that and just keep going, as opposed to starting to write and then going, is this any good? Am I writing the right stuff? Should I be writing something else? What should I put in? What should I not? If you've done all that kind of thinking and structure work first, you don't have those challenges, because there are enough challenges anyway, and it's called life.
Yes,
and that's why I say about priority. I say to all my clients, you need to be able to commit 2 lots of 2 to 3 hours a week.
Okay, 2 to 3 hours. Okay, that's fair enough.
Yep, 2 lots to 2 to 3 hours on average. Yep. And if you can do that, you will have a first draft of a book in 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
And if you can't make that, if you can't commit to that, don't start until you can.
Yeah. I think mine was 6 months, but it was probably one lot of 2 to 3 hours a week. Yeah. But but then that sort of works out as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even to the point of, you've got to have a cover and you've got to have a title. Wow. It's amazing how that can keep you up at night, just trying to think about those two things. Jeez.
I remember those discussions, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you help people in those areas, or it'll just come to you? Don't even worry, it's a thing at the end, or it'll come to you during the writing. Titles will just. What's your thoughts on that?
Red wine usually helps. Look, I say to people, don't get caught up in your title, in your subtitle, from the get-go. More often than not, it will come out as you're writing or as you're talking to someone like me, or phrases and words might come out through that process. And if they don't, I think you and I had several discussions around book titles, and you kind of keep going until you focus on it, and you keep going until you get something that resonates with you. Yeah. And resonates with your target audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And also thinking about the title and the subtitle together. So often people think, what's the title of my book? Well, you can have quite a creative title like your book, The Money Sandwich, and then a more descriptive subtitle. So always thinking about those two things together is really helpful.
Yeah. And I remember struggling over, because a lot of my audience would be people in their, say, 50s and 60s or even late 40s, and the technical term was middle age. And I thought, I'm never going to put middle age on a cover of a book. So, there's things like that happen. So, okay, so we have the book now. Where the marketing and just getting out there and promoting yourself on it, and your book is a whole new world, which I definitely had no idea of. So where do you start with that? To me, absolutely, there are people like yourself out there. There's experts who know what they're doing. Don't try and do this all yourself. But there is I suppose, some learnings definitely that you could.
Look, absolutely. And as you know, I'm not a book publicist, right? So my first thing is, again, you've got to create a clear marketing strategy.
Yes.
And again, that goes knowing your target audience, because deeply understanding them helps inform that. So where are they? What are they reading? Who are they listening to? How are they currently looking for information? Understanding where they are currently is because that's where you need to go play. So book marketing, really, it's at its most simplest, it's about visibility. If you want people to buy your book, or get you to become known to your target audience, you have to be visible. And that's not just having a book launch. That's only one small moment in time. It's a fun moment, but it's only one moment. So, I say to my clients, you should really have an 18-month book marketing plan.
Right.
And that should start at least 4 to 5 months before your book is launched, and then go for about 12 months after it. It can go longer, as you would probably be well aware now. Yeah. But you've got 18 months is a really good time frame.
Okay.
To have a marketing plan. So you're pre-marketing it before it's even launched, number one. And then you're leveraging it after the launch. And there's any number of things you can do. But the key thing there is you need to understand who your audience is and where they are, because you could spend a lot of time and money marketing generally and it won't have any impact. So what you need to do is work out where your audience is, and that's where you need to be. That's where you need to pay attention. That's where you focus.
Yeah, I think that to me was a really light bulb moment when you sort of said, who is your audience and where are they? Well, then that really narrows down your focus and your search parameters. And so that's really that's a great tip. That was really helped me when I was doing it. But there's also you whatever local area, there will be a local paper, local
Absolutely.
library, all those sort of things. So there's definitely your own area, so you'll see opportunities.
And I think you make a really good point, is that everybody's different. Everybody has a different level of confidence about putting themselves out there. And I think at a top level, I've had clients who say, I will do anything other than market myself. And I'm going, okay, that's a bit odd, but we can do it. So it is a learning curve, because if you're an expert in your field and you've been running your business, you might outwardly look confident, but for some reason when people come to the whole thing of holding up their book and talking about their book, they lack confidence, and more importantly, they don't want to be seen to be selling or spruiking their book. And I'm going, well, that's what you need to do. If
That's
you
what
want people
marketing
to,
is.
that's what marketing is. Unless you're prepared to do it,
Mm.
you know, and I said, you can only pay people to do so much.
Yeah.
You pay people to do your content and maybe put out some media releases, but you have to be front and center.
I think for me, especially even on these podcasts, and I get someone talking and say, oh, I don't like to be on, don't want to be videoed, don't want to be interviewed. And I say, but we're just going to be talking about your favorite subject, whatever that is, whether it's a book, whether it's your, you sell property, whatever it is. Funny enough, when people start talking about their favorite subject, it's usually pretty hard to stop them. It's not actually getting them to talk. So I think it's the same with the book. It was always, I will get up and talk about my book and, you know, the struggles of retirement, the how to get better with money, how to help your children get into property and all that, till the cows come home, because I just love it. I just really enjoy it. So I think that's what most people find. I may not be good at talking, but it's just talking about your favorite subject is a really difference there. It's not. I'm not asking you to talk about a specialty that you don't know about. I'm asking you to talk about something you live and breathe every day. So yeah, I think for a lot of people, I know it's a struggle, but as soon as you actually get talking about something you love, it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, and what I like to say to people is, don't think about selling your book. Think about it like you're sharing your knowledge, you're sharing your insights, and that often helps people to go, oh, okay, you know, I can do that. So it's a mindset thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. And it's actually the best business card either. As well, as I should say,
yeah.
You know, it's a cost if you've got to give it, and you've got that. But if it can open up so many more opportunities for you, use it. You know, people love, rather than getting a business card, they actually get a book. It means something. It makes you the expert already, doesn't it?
Yeah, and also, you know, I've had clients who've said to me, look, I want to write a book, because I say the same thing to all my clients. This is, you know, if I can just put it in a book, and if they read it, it's going to save me a lot of time, because they can read this first, kind of thing. And so that's, you know, that's a very legitimate reason for kind of going down that book pathway.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Well, just for your own pathway, this, yeah, you love what you do, and I know you help a lot of people. I can't ever see you stopping, but I could see you possibly slowing down. So where's for Jaqui Lane, not retirement, but how do you see this stage of life? You know, especially post-COVID, a lot of people had to rethink what they wanted to do and how they did it. How did that all affect you?
Well, I was one of the fortunate few that COVID really had quite a positive impact on my business.
Okay.
A lot of people had a lot more time on their hands, and doing their book project was one of the things they finally got round to. I set this business up 9 years ago as a virtual business. So I had been operating, you know, virtually way before COVID. So it really didn't have so much of an impact for me, other than being positive. In terms of slowing down, I have no intention of slowing down. There's too many. So I'm like the painter who never gets to paint their own house. So I have currently got 4 company histories on the go. And that's my writing side, and I've got a number of clients. I can't think of anything else other than scuba diving. I can't really think of anything else that I prefer to do. So if I'm not researching and writing books, I'm helping other people with theirs, or I'm reading them. I'm a voracious reader. I would read a couple of books a week that have got nothing to do with any of my work.
Goodness, a couple of books. Okay.
Yeah.
I love to read, but I don't find enough time to read one book. Anyway.
So there's not enough time for me to do all the things that I want to do in terms of books and writing and reading and a bit of travel.
Okay, so for you then, it's more, well, imagine like for all of us, we want to be comfortable, we want to be financially secure, but, you know, and therefore work because you want to rather than because you have to. Is your situation then?
Well, I have to work. I've got a mortgage to pay off.
Sure. Yep.
But that's not driving
Yes.
my work. It's just something, it is what it is, and I could work way less. But I love doing what I do. Can't think of anything much else I'd rather do, quite frankly.
Yeah, and I know clients of mine, and they say, "Well, I'm 65 now, and everyone tells me I'm supposed to be retired, but I just love what I do. Why should I stop?" And I said, and they nearly feel guilty that they want to keep on working because they love what they do. And I just say, no, just don't. That's it. You're just financially secure. You're at that point, which is wonderful. And and I hopefully had a little small part in helping that. But keep working. Geez, that's just, I've seen way too many people stop work and just are lost.
Well, and I actually don't know what I'd do if I didn't do this. Apart from a bit more hiking and a bit more scuba diving, really, I'd be reading and writing books, and maybe I'd write some of my own personal books that are on my to-do list.
Yep.
But that's still writing.
It still is. It is. And we've had a few conversations, or we've had many conversations about it. Also, money when it comes to, and this is my field, and educating our own children. And then we have some views on that. And you've tried to instill a good, positive money habits for your. So you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So I've got one son. He's now 27. He's come out of uni with a maths physics degree and a HECS debt. So he's in that generation. He's I'm a single mum, so he's seen how hard I've worked and the realities of that. So I've always had a very kind of open thing around discussing money, not in any great level when he was younger, but certainly I've given him some books about money and things. Hello, the book person. And one of the things I did institute about 4 or 5 years ago is we have a yearly dinner called the When I Die dinner. And
okay.
Yeah. And so every year we sit down and I bring out the When I Die folder that has my will, my self-managed super fund financial year reports, the reports on the business, the last tax returns, my power of attorney, everything that's a critical document in my life is in this folder. Registration forms, passwords, the lot. And every year we sit down and just go through it, because a lot of the time not much has changed, but sometimes things have changed. And it's a really good discipline that we talk about it. Number one, where am I now at this point, and where is he? And when we first started having those conversations, I had a graph about the structure of how I've organised my finances. So I have a trust and a this and a that. So I took him through all of that so that he was really clear about how my finances were structured and how he fitted into them. And so we do that every year. And when he was a bit younger, it was kind of a bit top level because he wasn't that interested. But we just started doing it, and kind of every year he gets a bit older, he gets a bit more interested. We do that. So that's a big thing for us.
That's amazing. I've never heard, all these years and clients, and I know people do talk to their kids and all that, but no one I've met as organised as having a yearly When I Die party, not party, dinner to go through that. That's really well done. I'm just flabbergasted. That's really. I definitely should try and find out more about that. I'd like to because I just think that type of thing. We're all going to die. It's
correct.
It's correct, and at least what keeps coming back for me is you don't want to leave your family problems.
Correct.
And as long as you have it sorted, have all this stuff there, and you're not going to leave problems. But I just see, unfortunately, that's a minority of people who think that way. The majority don't want to know about it, and I've just seen, unfortunately, when people do pass on and the problems they leave, and it's just awful. So,
Well, yeah, and I guess I was informed to do that because I was the executor of both my parents' estates, and I've got brothers, but I was the executor. So, I've gone through having to deal with when someone dies, and I'm on my own, and Hugo's an only child. So for me, and I said to Hugo, I think when I first suggested this, I said, look, I'm thinking that you might be a bit upset when I die, so I thought I'd make it a bit easier for you. And I mean, I've even got my funeral thing in the When I Die folder because, who I want to speak if they're still around and I mean, the whole thing's there, right? So he just has to go to that tab and he can pull it out. Because I want to make it easy, and I don't want, there's no need for all of that stuff to be a stress for him. So for me, it's just about being organised, and whilst I hope I live for another 30 years at least, I might die tomorrow. And particularly given my interest in scuba diving and weird places in the world, and also I spend quite a bit of time in the Middle East still. I'm not exactly sitting at home, and even if I was, you could die, the car could run out. So for me, it was really about being very practical, and I have a business, so Hugo needs to understand what happens with the business because he's going to have to sort it out.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the way it should be, but unfortunately for most people it's not. So no, just well done, because I think that's we're all adults, but unfortunately being responsible sometimes isn't the norm. So no, that's great, and let's just hope another 30 years you'll still be around helping people write books. But
I hope so.
You've got at least those. So. You've got the safety net ticked, and so well done. What's from talking to your son? He's 27. There's lots of ads on TV about sports, for betting on sports and bet with your mates. It's very targeted at that millennial male. You must have some views on how you educated your son just to say, okay, no, you need to have good saving habits, especially if you want to get a mortgage, if you want to buy a property or whatever you want to do.
Interesting question. So my son's never been into gambling at all.
Oh, good.
Just not at all. Not interested in sports, nothing. He's a bit of a gamer, like a computer gamer.
Yes.
But has never got into kind of the gambling. He's just never been interested in it. And I think probably because he's seen how hard I've worked.
Right.
And, he's quite a hard worker. He's been with his partner now for 5 years, and they're trying to save some money. So together in a way, and I guess he's found somebody who has a similar alignment in values, hardworking, so we haven't really had actual discussions around do you game, do you not, but I think the role modelling is critically important.
Yeah, good point.
And it's often they're looking at what you do, not what you say. And probably what you do is way more important than what you say. And I remember, I have regular dinners with my son and his mates. And I remember at one conversation years ago, he said to his mates around the table, he said, I don't know anyone that works harder than my mum. Now, whether that's a good or a bad thing, I'm thinking, okay, well, it's interesting that's he is, he was saying that to his mates.
He recognises it, yes.
Yeah, absolutely recognises it, and it's so I think it's more that than and I don't gamble. I don't even bet on the Melbourne Cup. Just not part of my life.
Okay. I think there was an article just Sydney Morning Herald or something similar just in the last week, which was basically talking about this mum and dad, and just said, the stress their son was that he was renting, so we just bought him a $3 million home. And so not even a deposit, they just bought the home. And there was a few examples, and some professor was there saying, yes, it used to be a property was for the middle class, but even that's now not affordable for the children of the middle class. It'll only be for the rich. And I'm thinking, you can't just give up. People saying that only for the rich, unless you're rich and you can buy a house for your child, your children will not be able to get into property. That's just ridiculous. But there's so many stories like that I just see education of our adult children is just so important.
Yeah, and I'm totally with you, Mark. The first property I bought, I bought it and put somebody in it, and they rented it, and I was still renting. You don't have to go from no property to a house or a 5-bedroom apartment with all the brand new appliances.
Yeah.
Call me old school, but there you go. So there's lots of different ways, and there's lots of different ways and places to invest. And so I think, giving Hugo and his partners some books and having conversations around that, and they've talked, they're having an independent relationship with my accountant, because I'm not the best person to give them financial advice.
Sure.
So that's, and I wish I'd had that, because I would have kind of made different decisions possibly had I been more informed and earlier. So, and potentially parents aren't the best people to give you that independent advice, but facilitating that and suggesting it as an option is about, is where I went, 2 or 3 years ago, and saying, well, Hugo, maybe you need to start getting your act together on this and go and talk to the accountant. And if you don't like her, go find someone else.
Or a money coach, Jackie.
Or a money coach. Yeah, money coach. Yeah.
I just think exactly that. I think there's no question, and I've just written an article about 21st century versus 20th century thinking when it comes to money. And while it's so much harder for this generation to save because of the cost of property, the cost of rent, and the way things are compared to 20th century. But on the flip side, they've got so much easier access to knowledge of experts, of people out there that wasn't available in the 20th century, because most accountants wouldn't see a 25-year-old back in the 20th century unless you could, whereas you can do that now, or a money coach. So so it's interesting on that. You've actually raised about the scuba diving and the Russia and a few different things. I'd love to keep on talking, but I don't want to hold you up. One question we love to ask our audience, Jackie, is what's the best piece of advice you've ever had? May I ask you that question?
You can indeed. I think, and I was thinking about this, the best piece of advice I received was from my mother when I was quite young, and it sounds corny in a way, but she said, don't judge people by the way they look.
Oh, okay. Lovely.
It's always kind of stuck with me, because everybody deserves respect and kindness, and until such time as they maybe don't, but it's quite hard to live that, because we automatically tend to associate with similar people all the time, but I was reminded of it. I became the founding chairman of a charity called the Footpath Library many years ago, and the charity still exists, and we give books to homeless and needy people on the streets and in hostels.
Okay.
And I used to go down to Woolloomooloo every Tuesday night. We literally put books out on the footpath, and homeless people would come around and pick up the books, and we'd start conversations with them. And they certainly looked homeless, and they smelt homeless, and a whole bunch of things. And you can never know somebody else's journey or someone else's story, and everybody deserves kindness and respect. That's really something well worth to live your life by. That's I really like that, Jackie. Thank you. I saw something on Instagram about you only get 7 seconds to make a good first impression, but I just thought that's just stupid. How can you get to really know someone in 7 seconds? I get the whole what they look like first off and all that, but I think those words which your mum said to you make so much sense. Look, and that's probably right, because subconsciously that's what we all do. So just being aware of that, I think, is really what I'm saying, is that don't necessarily assume. Because I met a homeless person who'd been homeless for 3 years, and he was homeless because they were from Melbourne. His son had to come up to Sydney for medical treatment. They sold their house, did that. The marriage split up. His son was still in hospital, and he had no money. And he had been an art teacher for 25 years. And here he was homeless on the street, and we ended up talking about a book he picked up, an art book. And we ended up having this long conversation about illustrating and art. And that's when he said, well, actually, I was a teacher for 20, and I heard a story, and I'm thinking, and I walked away thinking, just do not judge people until you talk to them and know them.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's wise words. Jaqui, just really appreciated your time today. Thank you very much for being on the show, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.
Oh, I hope so. I want to hear about how your book's going.
Thank you, Jaqui.
Okay, talk soon.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about Jaqui Lane and her work, visit thebookadvisor.com.au or feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com or visit our website, themoneysandwich.com, if you have any questions or would like to learn more. Visit my website, themoneysandwich.com, for free templates, online calculators, and subscribe to our newsletter to help you now for a better retirement tomorrow. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalised to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the Money Sandwich.